Well, Gas Week is currently underway in Johannesburg and is set to explore the regulatory, technical and commercial developments in shale gas, CBM and offshore gas exploration and production across the continent. Joining us now to explore this topic and the booming market is John Langes, who's Commercial Director at Sunbird Energy. John, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get a sense of, first of all, as to where we as Sub-Saharan Africa fits in this landscape when it comes to, alternative energy sources in this space specifically.
Certainly. South Africa has become a leader, really, especially among the developing economies for alternative energy with the rollout of the Department of Energy's Renewable Energy IPP program. Going into their second closing here in the next couple of weeks, they will have done 20-plus deals for various projects, several US billion dollars. So they've really taken a lead at developing renewable energy projects across the world.
John, Lindsay in Cape Town, I'm just reading something that I got from sent to me by one of our regular contributors, Sasha Narishkin from Vestact. It comes from the Washington Post this morning. It says the headline is "Study, the coal industry is in far more trouble than anyone realises, and we're addicted to coal in South Africa." It says, "Here's some bleak news for the coal industry. As much as 65% of the US coal fleet could find itself under threat in the years ahead thanks to cheap natural gas and stricter air pollution regulations." So what we're saying here is that although we're addicted to coal at the moment, the future for South Africa and Africa could be gas.
Well, the story in the United States is definitely driven by the shale gas revolution and the drop in gas prices resulting from that. It's pretty early days to know whether that's going to be the case with the shale developments here, but we've seen a lot of exciting developments in gas for South Africa, not just the prospect of developing the shale in the KAROO, but also new entries into the offshore where my company operates with the Ibubesi gas field, Anadarko coming in, Cairn India, Shell, Total, ExxonMobil, big companies that are now interested in South Africa in the offshore, as well as the development of the COALBED methane assets in the north of the country where Sunbird's also active.
So we've got this investment coming through, of course, with all that we've seen evolve in this space in the US, specifically the good, the bad and the ugly have come to the fore. What can Africa learn from shale gas exploration in the US? Because of course there are lessons to be extracted, so we do it better effectively.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of controversies, especially surrounding the hydraulic fracturing that's part and parcel of shale gas development. I think a benefit for South Africa is learning from that process, having the conversation more candid, more open, more people participating in it. I think that's happening better in South Africa than it did in the United States. Also, the United States, for its strengths, is a wide open market for the oil and gas industry. And so there was a lot of entry very early on, big investments that has resulted in an oversupply of gas. So the low gas price is currently great for consumers. It's great for the economy generally, but it's become a big struggle for the actual operators that are producing that gas. So getting that balance better here would certainly be an improvement.
John, let's talk about balances and equations now, if you would, and let's take a step back for a layman like myself. For every 100 units of energy worldwide that is generated every single day, how much of that is gas and what's it used for? What's the price like? I think you need to contextualize this a bit for us, if you would.
Sure. Gas has evolved to be about a quarter of the energy used in the world. Coal being still the largest, and oil also more prominent than gas. But gas has really been the story of the last several years. Oil, we've struggled to increase the production rate for oil globally since about 2005. We've brought a lot of new production on in the oil field, but old projects are falling off almost as quickly. So we're struggling to get more oil into the market still. Gas, on the other hand, has really grown quite a bit, and it looks ready to continue doing that. One of the difficulties with gas, as you mentioned, is the pricing. Unlike oil, markets for gas are more segmented, so you have wide disparities in the gas prices around the world. Prevailing gas price in the United States has been hovering below $4 for some time now. It's around $10 or so in London and Northern Europe, as much as $16 and $17 for that same unit of energy in East Asia, where they rely much more on LNG. So that makes it hard to plan sometimes, not knowing exactly which of those prices is going to prevail in your particular particular market.
Where we're looking at the commercial development of natural gas exploration and production, I mean, how supportive is the regulatory environment of this in South Africa? Because specific focus at this gas conference that's currently at play is the gas price regulation specifically. I mean, update and implementation of NERSA's maximum prices methodology are being unfolded as well.
That's right. Currently, it only applies to Sasol because they're the only producer of gas. And so we'll have a different regime that operates for the rest of us once we bring additional gas on stream. We think that that bit of the regulatory environment is pretty positive, pretty supportive. We think that there's certainly sufficient flexibility to develop new projects under those maximum gas price regulations. And the rollout of the new electricity generation independent power project program from the DOE that's come out in the last few months really looks to settle a lot of the open regulatory issues for gas to power projects, which is really what gas is going to be about in South Africa for a long time. What we're focused on, what other producers like us are focused on, is turning that gas into electricity, helping to solve the electricity problem here.
How much gas is there out there, John? I mean, how much is there under the sea off the shores of South Africa and the rest of Africa, and also underneath the soil of the KAROO? Is it quite exciting?
It is very exciting, and for as long as we've been exploring for oil and gas in South Africa, it's still nevertheless pretty early days for us here. There's about 40 wells drilled on the offshore of South Africa on the west coast where we're active. That's an area that's roughly the size of the shore of the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a whole lot of exploration still to be done. A lot of that area looks very promising. The numbers that they're talking about for the shale gas are really country-changing numbers. 400 trillion cubic feet of potential resource there. It's hard to know exactly what that's going to be until we go in there and do some exploration, but the numbers are certainly exciting. And then the COALBED methane as well is expected to be multiple trillions of cubic feet of gas up there, equating to several thousand megawatts of electricity capacity.
As you say, these are all exciting numbers. How soon do you see us developing a natural gas portfolio to address, Africa's needs, energy needs effectively, and fulfilling that kind of shortfall that we're experiencing on the energy front?
Well, we're lucky to be sort of at the forefront of this. We've got a production license already at the Ibabesi field off of the west coast. We think that with a gas contract in place, we could have that field developed and producing within about 3 years, so looking at about 2017. We think other fields, assuming exploration success, a couple of years after that. People probably talk about the same time frame for importing LNG to South Africa, and then probably more like a 10-year time frame for real development of the shale and the KAROO if the early exploration looks good.